Welcome everyone to Mission Critical, our weekly briefing with Dr. Neil Barnard to keep you updated on the Physicians Committee's work. We've got an exciting lineup today and some wonderful things to celebrate. Joining Dr. Barnard will be special guest Christine Kaufman to give us an update on one of our medical training campaigns. And we have Food for Life milestone to celebrate with Danielle Pryor and Food for Life instructor Tracy Childs. So much information to pack into the next 30 minutes. We hope that hearing details of this work, meeting our staff, and participating in these events makes you feel like you are part of the PCRM family, because you are. The work that you support through your petition signings and your emails and phone calls is helping to bring about tremendous change in medicine and research. Compassion rules the day when we all work together. Your donation support is also a big reason for this progress, and we continue to make it together with your help. Big or small donation, every dollar fuels these PCRM programs and gets us closer to saving even more lives. If you'd like to support this work with a donation, you can go to PCRM.org and you'll see the donate button up at the top of the screen. Thank you for being as generous as you can possibly be. Thank you. Please use the chat today and let us know you're here and where you're joining from. When you choose all attendees and panelists from the drop-down, it gives our staff, who is also on the call, a chance to help answer your questions as we go along. You can also type questions into the Q&A box. So now that we're all warmed up, let me turn it over to the Physicians Committee's founder and president, Dr. Neil Barnard, for a Mission Critical update.
Thank you, Betsy. Thanks to all of you for joining us today. If you haven't yet, let us know where you're watching us from. Please jump into the chat box and let us know. It's really exciting to see, and it's good for us to know where all of our family is right now. I saw one of the first people jumping in is from Denmark. Hello. Yahui is in Utah. Good to see you. Thanks, everybody. It's wonderful to hear from all of you. So please jump in, let us know where you are now. We've got a lot of things to cover today, so I want to be a little bit brief, but there are two items of news that I really wanted to bring to your attention. And if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen and I want to walk you through a couple of things. First of all, in case anybody forgot, there's a pandemic up there. And this darn virus is always seeking new hosts. That's the way viruses behave. They don't live outside of a body. They need to get into somebody. And they are finding an animal or a human being to jump into. And when they do, they have to overcome the immune defenses that person may have. And so they mutate. Viruses all do that. We knew that with the flu viruses and other viruses. The coronavirus mutates predictably. This is what it will always do. And that means is that you had the alpha variant, that was the original, beta, epsilon, and then a whole bunch of others. And the one that's in the headlines every day now is Delta. A couple things need to be said. The Delta virus isn't more deadly, but it's a lot more transmissible. And that's why we're going to see this uptick in cases, many more cases than there have been before. This is not going to be the last variant. There will be many more. And my guess is that in the same way as we have influenza every year, doesn't go away. I think that's where we're going to be with coronavirus. I would like to say it's going to go away. I don't think so. The fact of the matter is a virus like this is unleashed in the human population. We just live with it. There's a chance we could get rid of it. We'll just have to see, but it doesn't look like it. However, some really interesting news came in two different studies. The first looked at 6 different countries and it tracked healthcare workers. And what they specifically did was they looked at their diets. If you look at healthcare workers and you look at enough of them, some of them are more or less plant-based, vegan, or pretty close to vegan. Some aren't anywhere near it. And what they found is that if those people who were more plant-based or entirely plant-based, meaning vegan, had a 73% less risk of developing severe COVID. Now, there are some people who don't follow that kind of diet at all. There are people who follow ketogenic diets, South Beach diets, Atkins diets, low-carb diets, and they did worse. They had a 48% increased risk. Moral of the story, if the virus is coming after you, we do want to do all the things that we already know to keep the virus out of our lives. But in addition to public health measures, there's something you can do about your breakfast and your lunch and your dinner, and that's follow a plant-based diet. Now, when this study came up a couple of months ago, everyone thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder if that will be repeated. Okay, this just off the presses. We just got this, I think, yesterday or the day before. It's called the COVID symptom study. Huge study, more than 500,000 participants in the UK and the US. And what they were doing was tracking their health on a smartphone app. And they would be able to report if they had a fever, if they had a cough, and some of them did. Some of them got COVID-19. 31,000 of them, almost 32,000 got COVID-19. But the researchers went one step further. Along the way, they tracked, what are you eating? And they did it with what we call a food frequency questionnaire. That's how frequently do you eat meat? Never? Once a week? Every day? How often do you have cheese? Never? Once a week? Every day? How often do you have vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans? So here's what they found. The risk of having any kind of COVID-19, mild, moderate to severe, if you were following a more plant-based diet, more plants, less meat, that would reduce the risk about 9%. Okay, that's a start. But then they looked at people's risk of having severe COVID. You're hospitalized. You die. The risk of all that was cut by 41% to the extent that people followed a high plant-based diet. So just as the earlier study in healthcare workers showed, this study, not in healthcare workers, but in a very large group of the general public in the United States and the UK, showed that a plant-based diet seems to help. Well, why would that be? Short answer, we're not sure. But what we do think is really two things. You've heard me say on these programs that people who have excess weight have a much higher risk of severe COVID-19. People who have diabetes, particularly diabetes in not very good control, are at higher risk too. Hypertension, lung diseases, these things make a person more vulnerable. Well, when you're following a plant-based diet, if you had a diabetes diagnosis or you had excess weight, those things are likely to get better. And there might be more to it. It may well be that a plant-based diet improves our immune defenses. We don't know for sure if that's really arm wrestling with COVID successfully or not. But what we do know so far is that when people are on a healthy diet, a compassionate diet, an environmentalist diet, whatever, it also seems to be the anti-COVID diet to the extent possible. So stay tuned on that. All right, that's the first thing I wanted to share with you. The second thing I wanted to share with you is a member of ours in Rochester, New York, Dr. Carrie Graff, brought this to our attention. And I am not making this up. Where do you want to get your continuing medical education? From the dairy industry? Well, I'm sorry to tell you that's what's happening. August 5th, the American Academy of Family Physicians has approved for CME credit a program brought to you by the dairy industry. And the dairy industry has a certain plan, which is they're trying to reach out to particularly people of color to say, you might be lactose intolerant, you might drink milk and get sick afterwards, but maybe there's a way we can get you to buy this stuff anyway. What doesn't seem to be on the program is the fact that milk consumption is associated with prostate cancer, breast cancer, ovarian cancer. And it's the main source of saturated fat, which drives cardiovascular disease. And all of these conditions are disproportionate in people of color as well. So the dairy industry is marketing their products. Now, the dairy industry can advertise their things as much as they want to. They're a commercial product. It doesn't matter if it makes people sick, overweight, or kills them. They got a legal right to do it. But what surprised us is that it was the Maryland Academy of Family Physicians said, okay, let's work together and promote dairy products. And they went to the national organization, the American Academy of Family Physicians, which then gave them their approval. So doctors and dietitians can go online and learn for 60 minutes about how great dairy is for health. And they can be promoting this and get credit for it. If you find this scandalous, if you're wondering, should the dairy industry be sponsoring medical education? Feel free to send polite comments to the AAFB. You can let them know what you think. Margot Savoy, Dr. Savoy is listening, and her job is to respond to questions. And feel free to send her a message and say that you'd rather that they would do this more ethically. Okay, we have sent an official complaint and we've asked for an investigation. They are looking at it now. And I'm hoping that not just the American Academy of Family Physicians, which does such great work in other ways, but the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and others that are too busily taking industry money. And frankly, they'll realize that you can't really do that and be an ethical organization. Stay tuned. We'll keep you posted. Back to you, Betsy.
Thank you, Dr. Barnard, for the good COVID update and for taking steps to make sure the dairy industry stops its harmful practices. We will be sending out an alert to our members with that information, and it will also be in the recording that we send out each Friday after the event. So please look for that, and if you can take action and help, it'll lend your voice to our efforts. So, well, it looks like the family has shown up today. So we've got people joining us from everywhere, and it's so nice to see. We've got Jeffrey from Savannah and Irina from Norway, Incy right here in DC, hello. Vasanto from Vancouver, that's a nice sound, Vasanto from Vancouver, and Ellie from Newton, and so many others. Thank you for letting us know that you're here and for chiming in and participating today. Let me introduce our next presenter. Christine Kaufman was here on Mission Critical not too long ago, sharing information about our public campaign to end animals in the paramedic training at the University of Washington. Now, you'll remember that we had ads and billboards, interviews with the press, and our members did a demonstration outside of the university. So it was all very effective, but sometimes we can get results behind the scenes. And Christine is here to give us a peek behind the curtain and share some very good news. Christine.
Thanks, Betsy. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I do have an exciting update for you, but first let me give you a little bit of background. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Here we go. So as many of you may remember, we were working on a campaign to end the use of animals in veterinary training at Tuskegee University in Alabama. And while we were working on that campaign, an ally informed us of another program in Alabama that was doing something very similar. So we learned that Auburn University was using live beagles in what are known as terminal surgery labs. And so in these labs, veterinarian students train using animals on different procedures. And then what they do is they euthanize the animals after the training session. So for the Auburn lab, the animals would be cut into and to practice procedures on the stomach, intestine, and liver of these animals. And so what we did to address this animal use is in January, Dr. Pippin started contacting officials at Auburn to provide them information in support of humane training methods. And this is something that we do for all of our campaigns. You normally hear about our campaigns when we're ready to go public and do demonstrations and federal complaints and billboards and petitions. But long before we get to that point, and share it with you. We've been working behind the scenes for a long time, trying to contact numerous officials at universities and encourage them to change their ways and review their animal use. And this is an example of where that was successful. Auburn officials did respond positively to us and the information that Dr. Pippin provided, and they assembled a task force to review their animal use. And how that played out is that they reviewed their animal use and they decided to end their dog labs. So it was great news. We saved some dogs this week, everybody. And so now Auburn joins the other veterinarian schools that are providing beneficial care to animals in need while still effectively training their veterinarian students. And they can do this through spay and neuter programs, through feral cat clinics, and through clinical rotations with practicing vets. And all of these means give them the training that they need. And so I just wanted to thank you all for your support that make victories like these possible. And this is a great way, or a great example of how our behind the scenes work keeps us going and makes victories like this possible, where we don't have to launch a public campaign, but we can still create change. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I'll send it back over to you, Betsy.
Thanks, Christine, for bringing us that great news. And you're right. I mean, it feels so good to know that we're working together and save dogs this week, but you know, it also sets the stage for saving so many dogs and other animals in the future to shut down these types of training. So hooray, congratulations to you and to everybody here on the call for making it possible. I'm going to go right in and introduce our next presenter because we do still have so much to talk about. If any of you are familiar with the Food for Life program, let us know in the chat. Maybe you have taken a class, or maybe you're a Food for Life instructor joining us today. Well, we have a treat. Danielle Pryor and Tracy Childs are pumped up because they have been celebrating. And I'll turn it over to Danielle now so she can let us in on all the fun. Danielle.
Thank you, Betsy. Excuse me. Well, I am so excited to be here and to share with everyone about a big occasion. So this year, we are celebrating the 20-year anniversary of Food for Life, the Physicians Committee's longest running nutrition education program. And to commemorate this milestone, we have put together a video to share some highlights of the program's history and expansion and triumphs over the past 2 decades. And so I'm going to now share just a portion of that video with you now. This year, we celebrate 20 years of Food for Life, the Physicians Committee's longest running nutrition education program. In 2001, the award-winning program was developed at a time when many health organizations and healthcare professionals were not discussing the role of plant-based eating in preventing and surviving lifestyle-related chronic diseases, though cancer, diabetes, obesity, and heart disease were claiming countless lives. We pulled together our team of physicians and nurses and dietitians to design an innovative, hands-on approach to delivering information about the direct role of nutrition in health and created Food for Life. We started with tackling cancer and launched an experiment to see if people would be interested in nutrition and cooking classes for cancer prevention and survival. And they were. They valued learning how certain foods and nutrients work to promote or discourage disease. They enjoyed cooking demonstrations and sampling delicious, healthful recipes. They appreciated getting practical cooking skills and tips on applying healthful eating habits into their daily lives. They felt empowered by the supportive atmosphere that equipped them to take charge of their health.
The blood pressure, I can see it, it came down. But the biggest thing for me, it was getting my A1C under control because I've been working on.
So we'll pause it there. And to further celebrate this milestone, we have the pleasure of having Food for Life program royalty with us. We have Tracy Childs of Poway, California here. She became an instructor in 2005, so 16 years ago, making her one of the longest teaching instructors. And she's going to share with us about her experience with teaching Food for Life for most of the program's 20-year history. So I will now stop sharing my screen and I will toss it over to you, Tracy.
All right, well, thank you so much, Danielle. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me to represent all of those instructors that are celebrating now nationwide, or worldwide, I should say. I can't believe it's been 20 years, but and I've been an instructor since 2005, so it's been a super exciting part of my life. So and I've always just admired what the PCRM is doing. So being part of it has been so exciting for me. In today's world where, people are still so confused about what to eat and what is important and what's not, I'm super grateful to be part of this work and share science-backed information. Imagine that. And so I thought I'd take a moment just to share my own story a little bit about how a former software engineer from California who had absolutely no desire to get in front of people became one of the first Food for Life instructors certified here. So around 1990, I had already been vegetarian for a while, and actually since I was 17 years old. But, I was always mindful about animal products and had an inkling about it and bought cage-free eggs and organic milk. But then I became a member of PCRM and started to do more research and realized there was no such thing as humane milk or eggs and weren't good for us either. So I worked immediately to transition my family over to plant-based lifestyle. I now have 2 grown children, an attorney and a journalist, both vegan, living in LA. And so I just kept continuing to research, and I really wanted to share this information with people. I loved what I was doing in the kitchen, and I talked to people and they would be excited, but I wanted to actually form my own program. Then I heard about the PCRM's program. And so in 2005, I flew to DC, became trained, and became one of the first certified Food for Life instructors. So we were encouraged to reach out to local medical establishments from the beginning. So much to my surprise, I found myself actually teaching vegan cooking classes at hospitals locally in 2006, when the word vegan wasn't really even known. And but I was all over San Diego County doing it. But it really helped that this program was backed by an MD and developed by dietitians, and really just always based on scientific research. So I really felt like I had, some confidence in being able to do that. So I did it. And so even back then, when the word vegan wasn't even known, I was just really pleasantly surprised at the reception I got from my students. They were genuinely excited about the information, and I just feel like sometimes people just need an invitation to give up what they're conditioned to eat, and just getting that information. I feel like people just found it super exciting, and a lot of people transitioned right there on the spot and got great results during the series. It was so fun to hear people come back to class and say they lost weight, their digestion was better, it improved. I was focused on teaching the How Foods Fight Cancer classes at that time, at the very beginning. And so that was really great to lend some empowerment to people, because a lot of people really struggle with what to eat when they have a diagnosis, or going on with their lives. So it's really a wonderful program. And I found that people came to class and said, I don't cook, but the recipes were so simple, and the techniques I was showing people were so great that they stepped in the kitchen right away and they found out that it actually tastes good. Everybody was really shocked at how great the food tastes. They had never, experienced a lot of the stuff I was showing them. So it's great. And this was, of course, back at the beginning. Now people have transitioned more. More people know about quinoa now than ever. More people are including beans in their diet than ever, but I still find people are confused so much. So I'm grateful that our program has lasted this long and that we continue to get out there and share this. And we're getting more and more instructors every day, and the training is phenomenal. So just for me personally, doing this has been just a joy, and for my health too. I used to worry obsessively as a younger lady about my weight, and now I eat almost exclusively whole food plant-based, and so I generally don't really worry about it anymore. And that's really exciting. And I know that's helping my immune system, just like Dr. Bernard talked about. It's so concerning that, COVID-19 and other, who knows what other viruses. I just think that when we eat this way and we train other people to do it, we're just giving people another measure of protection and ways to combat disease. So it's great. So over the years, I loved getting in the kitchen. I actually recently just formed my own food company called Tracy's Real Foods. I launched it with my husband at the very beginning of the pandemic, and it's actually using PCRM's guidelines, food guidelines, nutrition guidelines. So I just want people to have treats and treat themselves and have a little bit of convenience once in a while. So also over the years, I've kept in touch with my students. It's been so exciting and rewarding to hear about their successes. Some of them have become my best friends. And so I'd say anybody on this call, if you love getting in the kitchen, if you love sharing nutrition knowledge, you're a geek about it like me, then you might just want to, take the training that's going to be coming up. And because I really found I found my tribe in the PCRM and the other instructors. There's so many benefits other than just being able to get out into your community. We're a family. So, and thank you, PCRM, for doing what you're doing. And if you're shy about it, like I was, but you're passionate about it, then you're just gonna feel more self-assured than ever. And I found, I love talking about food and getting in front of people when I'm cooking. So you might find that's the case for you. So thank you very much. And back to you, Danielle.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for sharing your story. It is so inspirational to hear this. And just go back to sharing my screen real quick. So if you would like to become a Food for Life instructor and be part of the next 20 years of Food for Life, we are holding an online training this fall. So please be sure to visit our website, ffltraining.org, to learn more about it and to apply. The application deadline is coming up just about a month away on August the 23rd. So please be sure to check out the website. It's FFL as in Food for Life. So ffltraining.org, and apply right away. And that's it for us. So thank you so much, Betsy, for having us.
Thank you, Danielle and Tracy, for sharing your story with us. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Barnard for some closing comments.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Betsy. Thanks to everybody for a really amazing program today and an inspiring one. I have to say, I'm kind of left with a sort of a funny thought. In our work at the Physicians Committee, we've got some really huge goals. We're getting animals out of labs, off the plate, improving the diets of people, and making hopefully their lives more compassionate. That's a big job. And so to do that, we've had to work really hard over all these years. And to get a victory, it often means campaigning day after day, month after month, sometimes year after year. These things can be expensive. We erect billboards to go after animal abusers, and plenty of time we drag them into court. But you know what's peculiar is sometimes you win really easily. As Christine was mentioning, we were working on Tuskegee and we were talking with Auburn at the same time, and Auburn really just kind of said, you know, you're right. That makes sense. So the message here is that if we're silent, nothing happens. But if we speak up, you can win. Sometimes you got to speak really loudly, but speaking up is really the key. And that's also true for individuals. When we make sometimes little changes, I decide, all right, I'm going to have the bean burrito instead of that meat taco. Well, whichever animals are no longer on your plate, for them, that's a good thing. And same for your coronary arteries. So these seemingly small steps, sometimes really easy steps, add up to enormous changes. If we can multiply them so that other people know what you're doing now, and they can be inspired by the changes that all of us in this family are making together, then it's really true that the animals will be better off in so many ways. Science will be better off because we'll be pursuing science in more ethical and more effective ways. Our kids will be inspired to be healthier, and maybe the next pandemic won't be quite so bad. So anyway, thank you to all of you for your incredible support, and we'll keep you posted. See you next week.
Well, thank you, Dr. Barnard and Danielle and Tracy, and thank you for being such a big part of this work and for joining us today. If you would like to invite friends to learn about the Physicians Committee, feel free to share the invitation for these mission critical calls, or you can share the link to the recording that we send out after each event. That would be a great way to help spread the word about this work. And if you are able to make a tax-deductible donation, our website, PCRM.org, is open 24/7 to accept your support. And again, we just couldn't be more grateful. So have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next Friday for a brand new Mission Critical.